Hey, it's Bob Boross, and this is my Jazz and Tap Dance Live. Welcome. Today we're going to be talking about jazz dance choreography revealed, a little bit about what my process is in terms of creating jazz dance choreography. Many different ways I'll approach it. This is one particular way. I'm going to be talking a little bit about a piece I did taking from Billy Joel's song Big Man on Mulberry Street. So it's much more in a classic jazz dance style, drawing from the history of jazz dance movement and vocabulary. First, a little pitch again for subscribers. Please, if you like the video, subscribe to the channel, click notifications. I've been really working at this for about 3 weeks now. I've gained almost 150 subscribers, so that's wonderful. Thank you for doing that. We still need to get more. Definitely have to hit that 1,000 subscriber mark because that's where we get the next level of YouTube sponsorship. Another little side thing onto that also is that using my analytics, I can see that only 11% of people who watch my videos are actually subscribed. 89% are not subscribers. Subscribing is free. So basically it's the same thing. So if you do enjoy the videos, just subscribe and we'll add on to those numbers, okay? All right, we're going to move on right now. We're going to go into a different screen, into our QuickTime. Now I'm going to play a section of a piece I did called Big Man on Mulberry Street, and there's one opening movement phrase, and we're going to go over that, and I'll just show you where I got the ideas that brought me to choose the movements that I did. I'm going to let this play. I'm going to let it play with the audio. In the final edit though, I may remove the audio because most of the time YouTube seems to put a copyright claim when they hear the music, and I'm trying to avoid that. So if you do hear this without music, it's only for that reason. So we'll see how that goes. Okay, so let's just watch this straight through. And the figure we're going to be watching will be coming in here from the left side of your screen. And he's a very tall male dancer who has a red shirt with a black vest on top of it. All right, so let's watch for him. There he is right there. Now here's his phrase. It goes into a little hip isolation. Now this is an interesting turn section. And a développé. Nice attitude turn. His name is Shannon, by the way, and these are dancers I had at Shenandoah University from about 3 years ago. So this is definitely in a theater jazz dance style, and we'll talk a little bit about where these movements came from. And his exit step is the same as the entering step. Okay, all right. So if we run this back, and I'm going to pop this down there just so we don't have any problem with the audio. If we run this back, he makes his entrance, and watch his entering step. It's a little 1, 2, 3 step and a turn and a snap back. He does it 2 times. 1, 2, 3, step, snap, 1, 2, 3. Okay, so where did that come from? Well, that little 1, 2, 3 step with the arms, that's definitely a Jack Cole triplet step. So that dates way back to the beginnings of what we call theatrical jazz dance. But where I actually got this was from, if we go back to, I actually videotaped this way back in the 1980s, and this is Mikhail Baryshnikov, and he had a show, a television special called Baryshnikov on Broadway, in which he danced choreography from many famous Broadway shows. So this is a little clip from Guys and Dolls, a little trio dance. Now, this was choreographed by Ron Field, who actually was a Jack Cole dancer. So you can see where Ron Field pulled some of the Jack Cole ideas. So let's watch this little clip and see where we see that little Jack Cole step with the turn and this snap and the contraction. Okay. I know right here. And the turn and snap, and turn and snap. He doesn't quite snap as much, but the other dancer right here, which I believe is Don Correa, he does a nice snap of his hand. So let's watch that one more time. 1, 2, 3, and a snap. Okay, all right. That is one step that I have always remembered. So if we come back to here to watch Shannon, you will see where I basically use that step as an entering step. And step, snap, 1, 2, 3. Okay. Now from there he turns and he does a little downward movement of the arm. That is definitely like from Cool, from West Side Story. Let's play it cool, boy. Boom, right there. So I took a little bit from West Side Story. He comes into a pas de bourrée with a pencil turn, drops to the floor. Now this section here I would say is a little bit more Fosse-esque. It's got shoulders, it's got hip isolation, it's got the heels turning. I don't know where exactly I got it, but it certainly I think comes from that heritage. So right here, little shoulder, hip. Now from here into a pas de bourrée. All right, let me see if I can just back that up just a hair, right about there. Okay, that position right there is a classic jazz position, and I'm going to actually go into a different program, into my preview, and this is the cover of a biography of Bob Fosse, and that's a Bob Fosse figure right now that's been turned into this sort of a starburst look in here. But that's Mr. Fosse. So if we take that hip roll with the hip pressed out, the arms up, that figure there is something that I've always had sticking in my mind, and we turn right there, and there's Shannon in that same pose. So thinking back to the well of everything I've done in my life, in my 40 plus years of dancing, that's something that I just picked up and went with. Okay, now he drops down into a very tough turn, squat, sit, roll back to the floor, and then a push out. Now that is very definitely right from my mentor, Matt Maddox. That's exactly a move that Matt has done and that I did with him. So if we watch that one more time, it's a turn, full squat, flick out, roll to the back, come back up, and a pop out from there. Okay, so I'm using a little bit from my studies with Matt Maddox. Shannon's going to go into another Jack Cole triple step, 1, 2, 3. And then he's going to turn and go into a développé right on the angle. And let us back that up just a little bit, see if I can catch that. Right about there. Oh, that was close. One more time. It's tough with the mouse. There we go. Okay, so that is a full releve. The body is on a tilt with an angle, and there's the line of the leg. The arm should be in parallel. Okay, that position is somewhat, or a position that I did quite often with another teacher I study with, and that is Michael Owens. Hopefully you know his name. I've written an article about him in my book. Very well-known jazz and theater dance teacher, New York and throughout Europe, and also in Los Angeles. Now pretty much retired. He lives in Palm Springs. But that is definitely something that you would do in a Michael Owens class in one of his adagios. Okay, now from here we are going to continue, step across. This little snap high and snap low is definitely something that I would have done with Christopher Chadman. If anybody remembers Christopher, he was a big Fosse dancer and went on to do a lot of choreography on his own, particularly the 1992 revival of Guys and Dolls on Broadway. The next pose, and I'm going to try to catch it here, Shannon jumps up. It's almost like a chiquette changement, hits that position, there we go, with the arm pulled down as the knees pull up. Now that's a very interesting pose, and it's just a quick pop that happens. And over here you can see Nick, and Nick is basically doing the same thing. Where did that come from? Well, if I come back to here, Chita Rivera. Now this is a photo from the Gus Giordano Jazz Dance Anthology book, which I bought after it came out in the late 1970s. And I always remembered this pose, and there she is with the legs tucked up, the arm pulled down. And for some reason that came out of my mind and just popped that into that combination right there. So we're just going to run this back just a little bit. We'll see how Shannon does a snap pop right from there. And then that little transition pose right there, that's also a Fosse type of pose where you snap the leg over, do a little slight contraction, and reach the arms forward. From there into what is a chasse en tournant, also known as the West Side Story turn, right there, into an attitude turn. He's got nice technique, hits that big flick. Here, this is Deontay. He's got that little layback in there too, so he's got a nice position, and also Nick has got a nice position too in there, okay? From there, they go into another développé, and then this next pose actually is from me. You tuck that foot back into coupe and go right into a little back single pirouette and into the classic jazz dance slide. Now let's talk about that slide for a second, okay? A jazz dance slide, as it should be done, is pressing the hips high and forward, sliding the leg forward, and moving over a series of counts. A lot of times you see it today and it's just a plop straight down to the floor, the butt comes right down. That is not a jazz slide. This is a slide. Slide, there you go. Okay, the next position is going to swing his legs around to the back. Sometimes we do these in floor exercises as part of the technique portion, but I remember doing this in an audition when I made the audition to be in the show Can Can on Broadway, which is choreographed by French ballet choreographer Roland Petit. And he did that swing around of the legs, but after that he popped right up. You had to go push off of your arms, clap the hands underneath you, and then come down to the arms. We didn't quite do that. That was a little bit extreme. But right there, there's the snapback. Come forward, and our next position right there. Okay, now that's a good jazzy position. Deontay again has the hip up. He has the hip up. But where did that position come from in my brain? Well, if we come back here, this is another photo from the Gus Giordano Jazz Dance Anthology, and this photo accompanied a text article that was listed. So this one always stuck in my mind. You know, this was totally jazz, totally attitude, and I just said, well, I'm going to use that right there. Boom. Okay. Very quickly. Boom. Next pose from there. Anybody who knows their salt about dancing should know what that pose is. Yes, it's the chorus line pose. It's a little bit of an adaptation of it, but that same leg out, arm up, one shoulder forward, one shoulder back, that's the chorus line pose. And actually, the chorus line pose is very tricky in terms of technique. There's an exact way to do it. We're not totally into the hip here, but that's where we're coming from, okay? Chorus line pose. Now that, with the front heel popped, the back leg straight, arms reaching back, that is also sort of a classic idea from a different time period. So if we go back to our photos, this is Steppin' to the Bad Side from the original production of Dreamgirls, choreographed by Michael Bennett and Michael Peters. And right there you can see there's that heel popped off the floor, back down, shoulders being used. And so I've used this pose quite often, also with the arm reaching straight back or with the front arm reaching on top of the hat to hold that there. So that is definitely something from the classic nature of jazz dance. From here, Shannon pops up, boom, hits that position. From there, it's a little bit Fosse-esque, but right here, oop, I kind of skipped forward. That little hip hop, that is definitely just something taken right out of I Want to Be a Dancing Man, ba-bam, right there. Okay, so we took a little bit of Bob Fosse. Now our next pose is whop, right from there. Let me back this up just a hair. There we go. Okay, now this pose, this should be with the hip pressed forward a little bit more, but the knee is on the knee. Could be pulled back. The line of the shin should match the line of the arm, and he should be looking back with his head towards there. The other hand is wrapped on the hip, and the elbow is pulled to the back. All right, now if I go back to my photos, and I run to the next one, and there's a Cassie photo from a chorus line. Okay, and this is Pam Sousa with Troy Garza. Okay, but there you can see how that knee is pulled back. All right, she's got two arms up. I took that arm and put it down on the hip, and I raised that arm a little bit higher. But that feeling, that look is something that would come right at me from knowing a chorus line. So knowing your history is a big part of choreography in jazz dance. Let's keep going from here. Turn, boom, right there. There's a push forward of the hip, turning it in, pointing that toe on the floor. I let him bring his arms up. If I run this back one more time to our preview, and then boom, there's Cheryl Clark as Cassie in a chorus line. Hi, Cheryl. So there's that hip press forward, down to the leg. She has the wrapped arms. I had the arms extending high from there. But that is definitely a Cassie type of movement from a chorus line that I used in this dance from here. From there, Shannon does it. Let's put a little squiggle of the hips back. Right from there, that's a little bit standard jazz, but the back leg is up. He goes into a hit. He does a swivel. That should have been a nice swivel of the hip. And boom, if we go into that position right there, that could be a little bit wider. It's still classic, but still, if I go back to here and run that back to Step Into the Bad Side. Okay, so that is where that is coming from. And then for a final exit, they run back to that first step from the Baryshnikov on Broadway. They do the little step snap and a jack hole step and a step snap and a jack hole step from there. So that's the exit. So that's how we worked on everything to put together that little piece of choreography. It all comes from your history, from what you've learned over many, many years, what you've watched, what you've seen, what you've internalized, and then when you hear the music, it's something that just comes out naturally. So drawing from the best of so many people of the past is a way to really pack your choreography with ideas and a look that everybody's familiar with, that is of high quality and will certainly will reflect in the quality of your choreography. So that's a little bit of something about how I put that together, and I use that for the entire piece after that. Okay. So that's choreography, jazz dance choreography revealed. And I'll be doing more of these as we go into the future. So thanks for watching. Please subscribe to the channel, click your notifications, click like if you like the video, and please tell friends about it, okay? All right, so that's it for now. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you soon.